Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, for having me here. Let me talk. I'm happy to present to you how we can improve patient outcome by keeping motion in spine. So we'll talk about motion preservation in spine. Let me start with the cervical part of the motion preservation. I guess every one of you knows anyone who has back problems or has back problems, so I think it hits all of you. I know it personally. What is degenerative disc disease? What do we treat? Degenerative disc disease is theoretically a healthy disc, a healthy spine, and what you see here is a nice degeneration, very nice described. And we have about 40% of adults suffer of this degeneration. How are they treated today? The majority of people are treated today with a fusion. And we see here, we see here on the left side, this is a standard fusion cage. What does it make? It just fuses the level, so you can't move anymore. And what we do is actually we have an overload on the neighbor levels. So what we tend to do is actually what we try to do, we keep motion on the level in the segment. So what we developed is actually MoveC. It's a cervical artificial disc prosthesis, which you see here on the right side, in the implant holder, which is delivered to the upper surgical field. Here an example how it's implanted. And what's unique with MoveC is actually that we are able to really replace physiological motion entirely. So it's not only the motion as a joint, it's also axial shock absorption, it's restriction to motion, so it's not a totally open free motion. It supports the body motion, and it's the only TDR available on the market with additively manufactured end plates. So the titanium end plates are manufactured additively. It has a defined neutral zone, so if you move your head, you know that you have a free zone for motion. And then if you turn it further, it's stopped and it prevents motion. So that's what's built in here. So we protect anatomical structures and help the patient to really move physiologically. The implant holder is completely translucent. This is why you see intraoperatively exactly what you see here. So it's a perfect application for the surgeon to implant it. And it has a unique anatomical design, so it's easy to implant, it's fast to implant, so it's really, I would say, the future in cervical degenerative disc disease treatment. Where do we stand today? It's commercial. We did the first cases just in time for COVID. So we all know we went through the pandemic, everyone was hit by it. We did the first case in January 20, which was about 4 weeks before COVID hit Germany, so perfect timing. But nevertheless, we did meanwhile, we actually surpassed in August about 1,000 implantations with the MoveC disc. It's approved in entire Europe. It's a CE approval. We do have additional approvals in like Vietnam, Taiwan. We're just waiting actually for Mexico, which should be approved in a couple of days now. And we are in the middle actually of the PMA trial for the US approval, which obviously is the most important market worldwide. We should complete patient enrollment in Q1 next year. And then we all know it's a 2-year follow-up time. We can't change 2 years, it's 2 years. So we do our best to complete patient enrollment. We are in contact with the FDA. We had a pre-submission, we have a nice discussion with the FDA and a very good response. So I think we have a very good track with MoveC, and obviously it's IP protected, that's for sure. Let's go to lumbar. Because it's not only, we are not a one technology company like most companies presenting here. We define ourselves as motion preservation experts. That's what we do. So we don't only work on the cervical spine, we also work on the lumbar spine. And all the products which keeps you moving are called Move. So it's C for cervical, P for lumbar. What does this product do? Let me explain a little bit what adjacent disc disease means in the lumbar spine. A general treatment in the lumbar spine is a fusion in one level. What you see here is pedicle screws in cage. And then what you see here is an overload. After 6 months, 8 months, you have a fusion. So you don't move anymore in this segment. And you have very strong, I don't know if the pointer works here. You have a very strong overload in the adjacent segments. So what does this happen? The cause in the patient is very often that you fuse one level, and the next level will degenerate a lot faster because you have an overload there. So what do we do? What do we try to prevent here? MoveP is a pedicle screw-based system. I hope this, you can see it, I can see it. This is an example of the application. So you have 2 standard pedicle screws. for fusion, so you have one level fusion, and then you implant Move P atop of this one, which is called topping off. So you have a smooth transition from a fused level to the next level, and you keep motion in this level. And we have a nice publication on this system, which really proves that exactly the physiological motion that we intended to achieve is achieved. But not 100%. This wouldn't work. This wouldn't make sense. We reduce motion to 80%. So it works, you probably would say, like an internal brace. It supports the human structure, but it reduces motion a little bit. Where do we stand? Or what's the USPs here? Important is very important. That's absolutely unique. The whole motion is built in the head of the screw, exactly where motion happens in the spine. And if you imagine you do a flexion or extension motion, the implant is implanted posteriorly, so the distance between the two vertebral bodies changes. So if you see the screws here, and you imagine you do a flexion, then the distance between this screw and this screw just gets larger. If you go backward, if you do an extension, it gets shorter. And what's very interesting is the force you need for flexion and extension is totally different in the body. You need less force for flexion, for a longer distance of motion, and you need a very high force if you extend back. We all know we can bend forward to lift a case of beer, for example, for the Germans. Or you can move backward, but you can move forward very deeply, but backward just a little bit. And this is built in the system completely. So the system is designed in a way that if you do an extension, it allows very limited reduction of the length of the rod with a high force or high load. If you bend forward, the rod gets longer with a lower load. So it's completely adapted to the physiology. And the motion is always in the head, so it's exactly where it should be. A little description how it works, what makes it easier, I think, for everyone in the room. This is the green lines here just symbolize Move P instructions. So this is the Move P screw, and this would be a standard pedicle screw. And you can move this level completely normal physiologically with just a limited motion, because the rod here gets longer and shorter and makes all the motion in there. Where do we stand? This is not clinical yet. We plan to get clinical in Q1, latest Q2 next year. We do plan, and we are in preparation for a combined clinical trial for Europe and the FDA. So we are in contact with the German Health Ministry, and we're in contact with the FDA under pre-submission. So we do all to put it together and get this done. Several IPs granted here, and very interesting. So what is the market potential? What is interesting for you all? Market potential, cervical, is pretty interesting. It's a huge market. You probably wouldn't expect this. The same for lumbar, which is a little bit more difficult because there is no really comparable device on the market yet. There are some devices which are called dynamic devices, but they're not really comparable. We are commercial, as I said. We started in 2020. And meanwhile, obviously, we all have this COVID phase. We are pretty much on track, and we already surpassed 2020. So we are in the good, I would say, speed coming up. Projections are pretty interesting because it's a very interesting market, and we, especially with the FDA approval we expect in 26, we can really gain speed. The team, very short, very family-driven business. Obviously, the best in the middle. What you see here is just an overview on deals happened. So it's a very high valuation market, very interesting market. It's driven by strategics. And what we're looking for in the moment is we raised in 10 million. So if you're interested to push forward PMA trials, commercialization, and support us, we are very open and happy to talk to you. So thank you very much.